Guys, Rick Stone here from Our Stony Acres. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about planting in containers, and in particular we are going to be talking about succession planting in containers. So things that we can do, strategies that we can follow that will help us to be able to do some planting in the spring, some planting in the summer, and hopefully also some planting in the fall to get a continual harvest out of our containers. This video is sponsored today by Smart Pots, and you can see I've got a pretty good selection of Smart Pots going on behind me here, and we'll talk more about Smart Pots towards the end of the video, but I just wanted to thank them for sponsoring this video today. Before we get started, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, click that notification bell so you get noticed every time I release new videos, and make sure you go follow us over here on Instagram as well. We're getting a good following over there, and I'd love to have you join us there. Okay, so containers. I'm going to give you 10 companion plantings that will work in succession. So we'll have a spring planting, then a summer planting, and then often a fall planting that will help you to get these things going. So I've got 10 options for you here, and the first one starts out with lettuce. So the lettuce plants usually are going to be ready in about 45 to 60 days, depending on how you planted them. In containers, you can plant them using seed, or you can plant them using transplants, either one. That's going to take up about 2 to 2.5 months worth of time in your containers. And then you can follow that lettuce planting with some beets. So beets are a really good root crop to grow in containers. They do really well. They're a cool season crop, but they also do well in the summertime. And so beets can be planted in the summer. They're going to do well in your containers, and then that should take, roughly 65 to 80 days, which should then land you towards the end of the summer and allow you to then plant lettuce again in those same containers, which will then give you 3 harvests in those containers. So again, it's lettuce, beets, and lettuce again. And get that lettuce in as soon as you can. We're talking 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, and that will get you going on that succession planting strategy. Our next strategy also involves a leafy green, and that is arugula. So arugula does really well in containers. It's also sometimes known as rocket, depending on where you live. And it is again going to be looking at about 60 to 70 days to full maturity and harvest time. So that's going to get you, 2 to 2.5 months worth of time. So if you get that planted early in the spring, again 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, then it ought to be ready to harvest and clear out of your containers in time to do a planting of cucumbers. So you're going to want to choose some larger pots for that so that you've got plenty of root space for the cucumbers. But any variety that is designed for a container is going to do really well, and you can plant that after you've planted the arugula. The cucumbers are going to take most of the summer to mature. You'll end up probably seeing those plants burning out towards the end of the summer, and that's a time for you to then pull those plants out, and you can replant again with arugula for the fall. And arugula does really well in the fall, and you should be able to get 3 harvests out of that plant combination as well. Our next option requires some bigger containers. So you're going to want to be looking at like this 20-gallon or maybe the 15-gallon container are going to be good options for that. And this is potatoes. So potatoes in containers can get planted in your garden roughly about 4 weeks before your last frost. So you can get those in, and the issue that you have with potatoes is that they're a very long growing plant. So it takes quite a while. Most varieties mature somewhere between 90 to 120 days after you've planted them. So that means you're gonna be some time invested in your potatoes. And so those potatoes, you're going to get them planted in the spring. They're going to probably be finishing up mid to late summer. Ours are usually done about the first part of September. That then is going to put you a little bit later in the fall than some of our other planting combinations have done. So you're going to want to choose something that's going to be extra hardy and that is going to grow in those cooler fall times and mature during the fall. And so a good option for that is kale. So kale is very hardy and is going to do well growing later in the fall. And so I like to plant potatoes, get those harvested, and then follow that planting with some kale that will, it will last in your containers well into the early winter before it finally gives out. And so you should have a great continual harvest for a bunch of months using potatoes followed by kale. Our next option gets us 3 different plants in containers, and the first one that we're going to start off with is peas. So With peas, you're going to again want to choose some of the larger containers. So I would go with maybe the 10-gallon containers is going to be really good for peas. Most peas are going to want a little bit of support. So you're going to want to put like a tomato cage or some, you know, maybe a teepee of some bamboo or something on it for those peas to grow up on. Get those planted early in the spring, 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. And those will take a while to mature. Peas usually take 90 to 100 days to really mature, which is going to put you in, you know, early summer, kind of moving into June and July by the time it's finished up. And so a good follow-up option for peas would be bush beans. So bush beans are about 65 to 70 days to maturity. They're going to give you a little bit of a continual harvest, so you'll probably end up having those in the container for about 3 months. And that should then land you right towards your frost date, and you could replace those with some lettuce. And lettuce would do really well again there. So you would go peas in the spring, beans in the summer, lettuce in the fall for a great combination that's going to keep you really productive in these containers. Our next plant combination is just another 2-plant combination, and that is onions and broccoli. So onions take quite a while to grow. We're looking at, you know, 4 months or more from the time you put your seedlings into your containers before they're going to mature. That is going to put you pretty close to the fall, and so then you can follow those onions up with a nice planting of broccoli, which will handle a little bit of the late summer heat and then mature in the fall and give you a really good crop. And broccoli does really well. You can see we're going to talk about a spring planting of broccoli here in a minute, but I've got broccoli in these containers already. Broccoli does well in containers, and so that is a good combination, onions followed by broccoli. Our next one involves one of the fastest growing vegetables in the gardening world, and that is radishes. So we're going to start with radishes. Radishes only take maybe 30 to 40 days to really mature, and so you can get those planted fairly early in the season. You're targeting maybe 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, so that those are mature and ready to pull out in time for you to then plant some eggplant in your container. So again, we're going to want to look at a bigger container, maybe a 10-gallon or bigger. You'll put that eggplant in, and that will grow and mature throughout the summertime, and then will kind of finally burn out and finish up when the frost comes. But that's okay, because then we can replant radishes again in that container, and they'll do really well for the fall. So great combination, radishes, eggplant, and then radishes again. Our next option is going to use smaller containers. So herbs do really well in smaller containers, and I'm going to recommend a combination of herbs that you can plant in some of these little fun 1-gallon smart pots. We're going to be looking at cilantro for the spring. Cilantro is a cool season herb. It likes the cool. It doesn't like the heat. As soon as it gets warm, it's going to bolt and go to seed. And so we'll plant that cilantro early in the spring, 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. As that matures, you should then be able to replace that plant with a basil plant. Basil, if you are careful in your pruning, will last all summer long. You'll be able to have a continual harvest all throughout the summer, and that will give you just a good solid crop to grow. And again, herbs do well in just these smaller containers, like these 1-gallon or these 3-gallon containers are going to be perfect for herbs. So cilantro followed by basil is a great choice. Our next one I already have started, and that is my broccoli and zucchini combination. So I've already got some broccoli plants in here. We're about 7 weeks away from our last frost right now, and so I've gone ahead and put some broccoli in, planted this today. And we're going to have some nice cool weather for a few days, and it should do really well and get established. Broccoli is going to take somewhere between 80 to 100 days to mature, depending on the variety that you've chosen. That is then going to give you still enough time in the summer to plant a container variety of zucchini. Okay, so we want to choose a smaller container variety, and those will start maturing in about 60 days. And so you should have a good harvest for the last 2 or 3 months of the summer using that broccoli and zucchini combination. And the zucchini will go right up to the last frost. You could then follow it with, you know, like a leafy green, a lettuce or kale or something like that as well if you wanted. But that's a great combination that I've already started here. one of my favorite spring crops to grow is spinach. We love spinach, and containers are a great option for your spinach plants. I like to choose some of the bigger containers, again, like the 10-gallon, just because it gives me plenty of space. But spinach will do well in any of these sizes. You know, these 3 gallons or 1 gallons, it'll do really well in all of those. And then you can follow that with a planting of tomatoes. So if you're going to do that, then you need to choose a little bit larger container. At least a 10-gallon, maybe a 15 or a 20 will be better for you. But you'll follow that spinach planting. After it has started to kind of burn out, you'll put in a tomato plant. Again, I would choose a container variety of tomatoes, you know, something that's determinate, that's not really going to get huge. You're going to put that in these containers with a nice cage, and you should have a great harvest all through the summer. So that's a good way. Spinach followed by tomatoes is a great way to have a good harvest. And then our last option also involves a leafy green, and that is any of the Asian greens. So here we're talking about things like bok choy, pak choy, even Napa cabbage. All of those would do really well. Plant those in the spring, and then you're going to follow those with peppers. So peppers, both hot peppers and the sweet peppers, are going to do well in containers, and they'll like the extra warmth that they provide in the summertime. Peppers do well with you know, container gardening. Again, go with a little bit larger container, at least a 10-gallon, and you'll have a good succession planting that will take you right up to the frost. So Asian greens followed by peppers is another great option. So there you go. That is your 10 companion planting or succession planting options for having a very productive container garden this year. And of course, a lot of those are really interchangeable. The idea is a short season spring crop followed by a long season summer crop, or even a shorter season summer crop that is then followed again by another fall crop of leafy greens or something like that. So this is a fun option to do, and smart pots are a great place to do that planting. So I've got a big selection here. Let me kind of slide out of the way so that you can see everything that we've got here. I've got a bunch of different colors and varieties. So Smart Pots has these fun neon colors. They call them the vibrant colors. They come in the blue and the violet and the orange. But they also have the more traditional colors. If you don't want the wilder colors, they've got the blacks and the browns. They even have a green as well. And this is a pretty good look at the variety that they have. So we've got 1 gallons, 3 gallons. This one back here is a 5. These are 10s. This is a 15, and this is a 20. The 5s and the 10s have these built-in handles that are really sturdy and do really well. The 15s and 20s have this type of handle that is sewn on, and I've found that they've been super strong. Makes it easy to move them around your garden, and they do really well. So I love Smart Pots. They're a great US company and do just fantastic work, and they're just a beautiful product. One of the things that I like most about them is they've designed these pots. If you look on the inside of them, they have a really kind of soft fabric on the inside, and that's on purpose. So that fabric causes what we call air pruning. And so instead of, you know, in most containers, when that root from your plant reaches the outside of the container, it then bends and starts to circle, and you get this bind up mess of roots in those containers. Smart Pots, instead, when that root comes to the edge and touches this fabric, it air prunes, which means it stops growing that direction. And instead, it causes it to have lateral growth along the roots, which causes it to have just a really nice, good, solid root system that is going to make for an even healthier and stronger plant. So I love these Smart Pots. Great company to work with. They've been sponsoring videos for us for over a year now. I really, really love them. Great US company that is going to help you out a lot. Now, this year, Smart Pots has given us a special offer for those of you that are Stony Acre listeners. So they're offering a 10% discount on all of their products at checkout. So down in the link is a description to, or down in the description, there is a link to their website, and when you check out, if you put in the code STONEY, S-T-O-N-E-Y, at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your order. Now, that is an affiliate link. I also get a little bit of a commission from that, so that helps to support the channel. So thank you very much. So again, there's a link down in the description that you can follow to check out these Smart Pots, and they have a ton of great products. So again, go check them out. Really love Smart Pots. Thank you for sponsoring this video, guys. Okay, that's all I have for you for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Let me know if you have any other planting combinations that you would like me to include. I've included a hard copy list down in the description as well for you, so check that out, and make sure you subscribe to our channel, go follow us over on Instagram, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Happy gardening.